To tell you the truth about this collection, there was a commission for one story, and when I'd written that, and it's the story of the woman with the tortoises, late September I think it's called. Once I had written that, somehow I had found a theme for all the others, which is, I think for once the blurb on the book is right, that the stories are in a way interconnected and could be read like a novel, because the theme is, and I would think without being overly sad, the theme is about mourning, OU, it's about goodbyes, it's about the end of life, and it is so in an, I hope, laconic way. It's what you deal with at a certain point in your life, that your friends die, a lot of people die who are younger than you, and it's about that. It's a life experience, but it's not a sad thing. There's also something which comes with age, which is a certain distance from all this kind of thing. And you have had your life's experiences, and you have been people that were very important in your life and that are no longer there, simply. And so it's about memory, mostly, really. And sometimes memories are very pleasant, even if they are definitive memories. This Italian festival was one of the greatest things that can happen to a writer. So this is a rather small industrial city, not very far from Venice. And what they do is they devote 2 full weeks to your books. And there are all kinds of manifestations. Now about 11 of my books have been translated in Italian, so the public that came there know the book quite well. And connected with it, there were 3 exhibitions. One of my wife, who's a photographer, and we have traveled the world. Then with a German painter, Max Neumann, with whom I have made a book, which will come out in England the end of this year, though not with Mackelhaus. It's a book of paintings and text prose poems. And then the 3rd exhibition was with an old Dutch friend of mine with whom I traveled the world in the 70s, all over, all the continents. And so there were 3 exhibitions. Then there was an evening of my poetry, but done by an Italian actor, accompanied by a cellist. There was one musical evening about my book, Roads to Santiago, the Italian version, which has a different title, but Santiago is in it. And then there were interviews with journalists from important Italian papers. So almost every single day there was something, and this 2 weeks at a stretch, in the end you are exhausted. But I must say lots and lots of books, which is also important, were sold, and the people seemed to like it. Well, I think that otherwise I would be bored, writing the normal stuff from A to Z or Z, I don't know what you say. There has to be a twist, and there has to be some imagination, and there has to be some humor and some frolic and some impossible things. I'll come back to that later in answer to another question. It's fun to give Holland, that has no mountains, and call a book In the Dutch Mountains. And the fun is even bigger when you succeed, because one of my German friends had read a review of In the Dutch Mountains when it came out here. Bernard Levin wrote a fabulous review. And so he went to the bookshop at Harrods and asked them, did they have the book? And they said, no, they didn't have the book. And he said, but how come you don't have the book? It was reviewed in whatever it was, Sunday Times or something, and it was a fabulous review. And they said, oh, sir, why don't you look under mountaineering? And in that sense, then you know that you have a certain result, you have achieved what you wanted. People actually, some clerk in the bookshop actually thought there were mountains in Holland, but that was good. They selected 10 travel writers of the last 100 years, which they then thought were the best. Well, apart from the fact whether that is realistic, I was happy to be among the 10th as almost the only, together with Kapuscinski, the only non-Anglo-Saxon. I remember being invited once with 9 Anglo-Saxon travel writers by Drew Hines in Italy somewhere for a partisan review or something. And then I realized that the Anglo-Saxons really dominate the field. Also, I would think because a lot of Anglo-Saxon people do not realize there is travel writing in France too. For example, Nicolas Bouvier was a great writer of travel, especially Japan. But anyway, Kapuscinski and I were the only foreigners, let's put it that way. And you ask me who of the 10 I admire most. That would be Patrick Leigh Fermor, who is fantastic. It would be also Norman Lewis. To one of his books called Voices of the Old Sea, I wrote an introduction for the Dutch and the German editions. That is a fabulous book set in the early 50s in Catalonia, when I knew Catalonia, and the difference between 50 years ago and now is almost as big. I don't think there has been a bigger change between medieval times and the times that he chose to write about Catalonia and to that period and now. Majestic book. And I also love Kapuscinski. I don't know many of the others. Of course, I've read my Naipaul, who's very good, but if you ask me, then I would say Patrick Leigh Fermor is nearest with Norman Lewis. You see, I wrote extensively about Spain, so that's a country I know well, and the book has been very good for me, and Spain has been very good for me. At the moment, I find Spanish politics terrible. That has to do with it. In Spain, I'm always asked about one phrase in that book which says Spain is brutal, egocentrical, etc., etc. But since it's in a book of love for Spain, I think they forgive me. But lately in politics, I see those things really, the way they're getting at each other's throat, left and right, has a taste of the 30s all over again. And I find that very unpleasant. I thought they mastered the transition from Franco times to democracy very, very well, but somehow old reflexes are coming back. I have constructed a hotel. Of all the hotels that I've been in, now I've been in very poor hotels, sometimes for one reason or another. I've been in luxurious hotels, I've been in tropical hotels, I've been in Arctic hotels. So I have constructed for myself a hotel out of all those hotels, in which my readers can live if they want. And one room will give out on the northern ice sea, and the other will give out on the Chinese Sea. And it will be ramshackle, and it will be luxurious, and it will be everything that all hotels in this world combined could offer.